Y'all have 2 or 3 things at your place. I might kind of just make you a little bit aware. One of them is a event next Tuesday that's not on the agenda, and it's a recognition the state house is going to do for family of Karen Spalding. And if anybody has opportunity and wants to participate in that, I noticed one of the last things Terry includes here is encouraging to invite friends, relatives, co-workers, or public officials. So if y'all happen to be in the area, obviously you need to probably. I'm going to be in Washington, D.C., flying out Sunday afternoon, getting back Wednesday, so I'm not going to be available, or otherwise I'd be there. And lastly, I'm supposed to be at the celebration at 5 o'clock today, so I've already told them I'd be at least an hour late. But quicker we can get through, the later, less time.
Well, Judge, we don't need to be an hour late.
I personally hope you're on time.
We might get you there.
Had to get out here before 4:30.
If the county attorney will allow me, I'll make a motion to approve line items 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, and discuss that.
Go ahead and do
I just got through saying it.
do the county's business in an expedient way as possible and move on through it. So we will go ahead and call the meeting to order and do the roll call of the magistrates and establish a quorum.
Mr. Elder?
Here.
Mr. Wicker?
Here.
Mr. Smothers?
Here.
Mr. Caldwell?
Here.
Mr. Masterson?
Here.
All present.
President County, before we have a quorum, we can proceed. Okay, the first item of business, review, approve the minutes from the previous meeting on
Motion.
March 6th.
Second.
Mr. Elder?
Yes.
Mr. Smothers?
Yes.
Mr. Wicker? Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Masterson? Unanimous.
Item number 2, we have a guest today, a presenter that everybody's familiar with and knows his passion is about education, vocational education, and technology education, and has kind of an update on some of the things that he's been involved with. And he did this presentation to the Industrial Foundation, about 3 weeks ago, a month ago. And you all have a nice packet that kind of gives you a little overview of some of the things that they're working on. And Kenny, I won't take any more of your thunder. You go ahead and give it the presentation you think it deserves.
The Marion County Jobs Training Consortium was formed about 15 years ago. And what we formed that consortium for was to find the money to introduce the machine tool program at the tech school and upgrade other programs there. So we were responsible to purchase, along with the state, we put in $1,000 and they'll match it with 2 or 3 more. And then all in all, we got close to $1 million during that time frame that we first started. Since then, the consortium has kind of spread out and haven't got back together. So we just now are pulling back together again, and our focus is still the same, to train our future and existing workforce. But since we've come back, we go into the machine tool lab where we put in a cabinet that when you're using a machine, everything in that cabinet you need to operate that machine in that cabinet. You pull out a drawer, we laser cut out spots for everything to be there. If the wrench is supposed to be here in this spot, if the place was there for it. If the drill bits were supposed to be here, there's a place for it. And so when we got back involved again, the state has not given any money to keep that up that we put in there. And so when you pull a drawer open now, 3/4 of it's gone. A lot of it's used up. There's never been enough money, or never has been a proper amount of money budgeted to keep ongoing what we established. And so we're struggling now to find money to get the program back to where it was originally so that we can create a better employee for the workforce. And I know Fiscal Court has always in the past contributed money, and we're hoping that you would consider doing that again, because we're running out of, our needs are great. If I had $500,000 today, I could use it to hire a full-time engineer, a full-time technical writer, a full-time draftsman, illustrator, and a full-time math teacher, and then I might be able to start putting together some really nice projects so that we can introduce these, so when we introduce these students to these projects, they would be better qualified for the workforce. It would be applied geometry, applied physics, applied math especially. And so it builds good work habits for all of us. So what we're doing now is we're wanting to get the program back where it was so that we can start developing more projects. If you'll look in your packet that I sent to you, I'll go through it quickly with you. On the first page, you'll see this item. That's a hot air engine that was built by one student this year, and this is the actual item. If you, the way the program's been, it's been, you make a hammer, or you make a C-clamp, or you make a vise, but there's not really a lot of emphasis on quality and an appreciation for quality of steel in these projects. But this type of project that actually works when you get through is a whole lot better indicator of what kind of student it takes to create that project. If you go on the next page, you'll see this is a wood project, but it's a combination lock. So it actually shows the students how a combination lock would work. They get a chance to make the project on about a $100 scroll saw. You've got 15 students in the class. You've got one table saw, so everybody has to wait to use it. You've got one chop saw, everybody has to wait to use it. So the consortium bought 4 scroll saws, and this was some of the projects that they were making. Again, it's not just making a lock, it's teaching the students blueprint reading, teaching them applied geometry, and physics. Of course, that's some of the components, as you can tell, right there, 3 pages. This particular project, the next one that you see here is a little cabinet project that was introduced this year. The instructor did not have any materials to make this project with, so the consortium gave him $1,200 in funded for this particular project. You'll remember a few years ago, some of you were here, that we funded some in my old plant, and that turned out really nice. But this right here was a $1,200 project for 15 students. Now, you know, we funded $1,200 on this, but, you know, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it is to us because we started off with $4,500 in the bank. So when we write a check for $1,200, that's saying a whole lot. But now the students, this project is nearly complete now. As a matter of fact, some students do have it complete. And you're welcome to go see it anytime you want to. And whenever they do get it complete, we'll get you some pictures of that. This next one is similar to the hot air engine. This is called a flame meter. What it does is you put a flame up close to it, and the heat from the flame goes in, expands the gases, makes it work. So again, applied geometry and physics. Look how much difference this would be, the size it would take to make this than it does to make a hammer, you know, and the C-clamps and all that kind of things. And those are good start projects, but there's not enough to keep the students' interest. Really don't care what it looks like when you get done. Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, we would like to introduce a craft fair at the end of the year. Maybe not this year, but so what we do is we're going to put a little competition with the students to do a little bit better job, to have an appreciation for quality and the appearance. This particular one here is being built right now. One student is building the very first one. The CAD/CAM class did all the drawings for it. They're taking and individualizing all the drawings, creating all of the they're making a packet together so that the students can make it as a future project. And then, of course, the next page gives you an idea of what some of those drawings look like.
Where you show the contents, is that some of the projects that they're working on, or some of the projects you're looking to work on?
These are working on this one now.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking about back here in contents in the back of your packet, in the very back.
The very back.
Well, toward the back, yeah, it says contents. It's got a project 17, 18, all the list of projects right here.
Oh, no, right there.
Yeah.
That page?
Well, I'm talking about the contents.
Oh, those pages right there.
Yeah.
That's other ideas.
Oh, okay.
That's other ideas, but I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to speed you up. I apologize, Mr. Mayor. Go ahead.
That's ideas. That's where we got a lot of our ideas. Those are more wood projects, the same as this lot project.
Gotcha.
Is more wood projects.
Okay.
But now, and see, you can see the geometry that it would take to make that padlock. But now, in the contents, that's where the individual parts are. Yeah. You got me all messed up. didn't you?
I apologize, sir.
You did it on purpose.
Wouldn't do that.
And see, then I got some, I expanded some of those individuals. I just picked out a couple, 3 to show you how even in woodworking, it's the same geometry, the applied geometry, and the same applied
You know, Mr. Mayor, let me say this, and I don't know about the rest of the court, but, you know, I love the concept. I agree 110% with you that we need to push the students to look further as opposed to, you know, I built a hammer back in my day, all right, or, you know, paid somebody to build it. But anyway, bottom line is that we do need to push them to think ahead and to look at a larger scheme, at a larger venue. The question I've got, you can help me here, okay? You know, a couple things. One is that proper budgeting, okay? I understand that. And first of all, I know the court appreciates everything you do because you put a lot of time in this, and actually, where would it be without you? Okay, let's be real about it. I guess, does the board have, the Board of Education have the capability of helping fund this? I mean, I know it's ran by the state, but can the board appropriate funds as well?
Well, let me address that. The Board of Education has rebuilt the school at an $8 million project. We've got a nice new facility. There's no cutting tools in it.
Right.
I went up there to use the table saw because the sheet of plywood was really heavy and it just works the saw easier than it does mine. They didn't have a saw blade to cut it, so I bought them 3 new saw blades. And they put them all on all the machines right then because they didn't have a saw blade. $58 a piece for a saw blade. You don't have, you know, there's no budget. There is no budget. You know, there's no money. And so the Board of Education has put in $8 million. While I was in there working with the pharmacy, the little pharmacy building, I was working with some of the students in there on building that park display because it was a sponsored project. We had the money, so we built it. And we're going to build projects that we've got money for, especially sponsor-related projects. And but while I was in the classroom, the construction instructor was outside working on the old football concession stand, little on wheels, need to be rebuilt. So he's got 15 students around this thing smaller than this desk and trying to put on shingles. He's got some students outside because can't get it inside, the room's too small. And students, some of the students are inside wrestling around. He's trying to get them together, trying to coordinate them. He finally threw his hands up and he said, look, he said, shut it down. We're going in class where I've got some control. So some of the students walked by me on the way in and they said, man, you know, we signed up for this class because we really want to make something. And I got thinking, okay, well, the problem is they don't have projects to keep them busy.
Right.
And so we bought 4 scroll saws to start making these locks. The students loved it. They had a video of how they went together, how they functioned, and how they worked. They watched that first, and they were so excited that whenever we got the saws in there, they started working and they were all busy. Everybody's happy. And they learn skills, they learn good, valuable lessons.
Well, and I agree with,
But what happened was, my point is, this classroom was too small to get it in there. Well, we found out the industrial maintenance class is large enough. So Tuesday, I had a meeting with Flora, and she's agreed to fund $15,000 to swap the 2 classrooms because one will fit the other better. So yeah, the school board, and also the school board's even hired me. Now, I don't make any big money or anything like that, but I do get my health insurance and I work part-time. And then they do have to pay me about $10,000 a year so that they can withdraw out of that my portion of the health insurance that I have to pay. So what that does is that gives me a couple $100 every 2 weeks. And I use that money to buy the saw blades. I use that money because their brake lathe was broke. It was $300 for replacement parts. I just ordered those for them. And then they needed some sandpaper. They needed some palm sanders because theirs were gone, used up, broke. And I had a couple of 4 or 5 left over from the cabinet shop, so I took them 2 down there. And plus I bought about $100 worth of sanding pads for them.
so let me ask you this, the consortium is made up of business people, correct?
Yes.
So I guess the other side of that is that when I look at, we're very fortunate here in Marion County to have the number of industry that we have. I guess, and obviously, it's going to be a direct benefit, as we all know, or we hope that it will be, to our local industry to continue, the growth and potential. So, is local industry helping out in this, and to what level? Because, for those who much is given, much is expected. So,
We've been discussing that for quite some time. We know that we cannot hold the instructor's feet to the fire if we don't at least assist them in some way.
Right.
And so we had a meeting today, we meet the 3rd Thursday of each month, the consortium does, and we were discussing that very thing, and we're trying to come up with a plan of exactly how we're going to sustain it even after we get it back to where it once was. We did meet with one company here in this community, and it was a very disappointing meeting. They said, well, it's not our responsibility, it should be the parents' responsibility, but they don't understand the concept that in the United States, education is free.
Well, see, and here's the thing, and it's a vicious circle, and I think we'll all agree, is that, here's the thing, is that everybody can point the finger at everybody, okay? And fiscal court, for whatever reason, is someplace you come through to try to get some funding, all right? So I guess a couple of things. One is that, I think it's a tremendous program. I think it is disappointing that local manufacturing is not, or businesses, period, are not stepping up to the level per se that, not saying they all, but as a whole, okay?
This one did not.
Right, and I'm not saying all, but as a majority, okay? Because if they were, and I know in other areas, in other counties that I'm involved in and so forth, local businesses or manufacturing do. As a matter of fact, they manage it and they run it for the most part because they're investing in it and they've got control of it, okay? So that's a concern, and I don't know if Mr. Lund can help you with that or somebody, but that's very disconcerting.
We're working on it every day.
Well, and then the other thing is the money that we provided last time, if you remember,
Yes.
I think that was about, what, $150,000? Okay. And there were just a couple of things in regards, I know according to our, the agreement the county attorney wrote up and so forth, for example, the funds were not to be commingled with any other funds. We were supposed to get appropriate accounting and invoices and so forth. I think the court it did come back to the court. We did agree to allow for an instructor funding and so forth because, you felt as if that was a need and we agreed with you. But I guess the question is that, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if we're totally satisfied in regards to, per se, how that money was handled.
The Board of Education was supposed to put that money back, that when they hired that engineer.
Right.
That was part of the agreement. They was going to restore back that 75,000, I believe it was what we funded for the.
Yeah, that is correct.
We
They
actually
did.
allocated $75,000 and they was going to put that back.
I think it was 80,000,
Was it
75,
75
80,000.
to 80?
And we sent the money up there, $150,000, to buy the exact equipment that you're talking about.
Yes. I can give you, I didn't have any control.
I know you didn't. I know you
But I
didn't.
was somewhat involved. In other words, I have enough information. Those that were in control are no longer here.
Yeah.
But what did happen was, when they asked you that money was allocated for equipment and supplies to get
Right.
the program. And then what they did is while it was during the construction of the facility. So what happened was we've got this contingency money to buy equipment that we can't use for salaries, so they came and asked you, can we use your money for salaries and replace it with the contingency money? Well,
Right.
it's like all public projects, they go way over budget. Contingency money was used up and it's no longer there.
Well, see
So
it,
it couldn't be replaced.
right.
They did get a couple of things afterwards, but nothing like the amount of money that we're talking about. This is on behalf of the consortium. The school board will not control the money. The consortium will control this money. The consortium won't let any money be spent anywhere except for equipment and supplies.
Kenny, have you talked to HR in many of these factories? I've spoken with 2 or 3 people in HR, and not knocking what you're doing, because everybody appreciate what you're doing. But right after all this happened, and this has nothing to do with that, but some person at one place told me that they were disappointed with what we had up there because they weren't getting what they needed for their factory to that establishment. And I'm just,
What we're trying to change.
Yeah. And that
I
was,
have the greatest amount of respect for you. You've done more than your share for Marion County. But,
You have done a good job.
This happened in 2009, and she was supposed to come back every 2 months with invoices of this equipment that she bought and updates. We didn't see her after 2009, after they got the money.
I
And a businessman, I tell you being a businessman, I don't, they come back in 4 years, say, hey, help us again,
It was actually in 2009, then 2011, we actually agreed again. You remember that? So it's kind of like, and that's what they were going to use the monies to, they was going to utilize that money back in 2011 for that same purpose. This equipment that you're buying, is it actually for wood? The one piece, is that?
It's actually for the metal lab, is to develop some of these projects. What happens is when you're cutting on I don't know how many of you are familiar with a vertical milling machine, but when you're cutting on one, your left and right, in and out you got straight line cuts. But if you have to walk around a curve or something, you can't do it unless you put on a rotary table. And it takes 2 hours to get set up to do something. Well, the mess is only an hour long, so you can't even do it. And so some of these projects we need to develop, we're going to have to upgrade this piece of equipment. Now, it's the same equipment that we put in 15 years ago. We're just going to upgrade it. But now the digital readouts, I don't know if you're familiar with what that is, and it digitally tells you where you're located. And but this right here still works as a digital readout. It's still a manual machine. You can still learn your basic skills. But then if you want to step into the CNC to make 2 and 3, you can do so. Curtis uses these particular retrofits or prototype type conversational controls. And but now we also have one, what's called, I call it full-blown CNC, where it changes its own tools, where it jumps up and down and dances, it does all these things. But now they're a lot more, it takes a lot more programming time and a lot more setup time. But then if you want to run 1,000 parts, you can run it a lot quicker. But this is a perfect item to do the 1s and 2s and the small quantity type things. And it doesn't take away from the math, it adds more math to the students.
Yeah.
If the money wasn't supposed to have been commingled with any other account up there, why are there not records showing us where that money went? I think you got over $100,000 up there somewhere floating around.
More than
And
that.
I would love to see you find it and use it, because I know you'll use it.
I'm sure that it's in the Board of Education because the check didn't come to the consortium.
It's actually more than 100,000.
Well, and which is kind of the point we're getting to here, is that, and I agree with Master Wicker, fact is, we don't have any documentation, and I'm sure it's there and so forth, but correct me if I'm wrong, we have not seen the documentation to show us where those funds were spent and so forth. And my point there is that if there is money there, or if there's money still there that is unaccounted for, that this court gave in support of you in regards to for that program, which that's what we did it for, then that money needs to be somewhere. And
That's right.
so you might get more than 12 than you asked.
There's over $100,000 up there somewhere floating around.
let me interject something here. Lisa Cowell did give us a follow-up of the accounting for that money that was spent. In other words, and it was engineer and part of it was Mary Lancaster, whenever Washington County pulled out of the funding for that counselor's position. Some of that was during the construction phase when they weren't ready to buy equipment. I mean, this was kind of ahead of the game. We probably allocated it too fast, too early. But anyway, they found a need and tried to sustain some things and she did come back at least once or maybe twice to request, I guess, with the hope of restoring that, but a current need that money was sidetracked for. And that was in the report that we did get that I thought I put in your packet there last year when we were talking about it at budget time. And that's when we found out they still had $39,000 left for the co-op program that had not been allocated over the last 2 or 3 years and did not have to make a contribution this year. But I guess the long and short of it is that there's been at least two different administrations now in the superintendent's spot that have changed. The fiscal accounting was separated, and they did give us a kind of a complete utilization of the funds as they were spent, with really no follow-up or hope that would be replaced with the second administration, because the first one made the promise, the second one said, we just don't have the reserve. It's not in there, wasn't in our plan. So I guess looking at the request and the merit and the need, Kenny wanted to just let us see what immediately would be a benefit. And I know that come June and July 1, we have always supported some technical education projects or community projects, and that more itemized, dedicated use going into the next fiscal year, we may be able to help again. But I'm just thinking what's done is already probably not retrievable.